I am so freaking excited to be here with you on this Monday evening, afternoon, whatever time it is. It's a construct. None of it matters. I'm Chris. I'm the Longbox Punk, and I am joined by my friend and post punk, PJ Curling, and pro wrestling manager, the Dr. Carl Martin. Dudes, thank you so much for hanging out with me. We're going to talk so much wrestling and so much comics today. I have been looking forward to this all day. It's the only reason I didn't murder somebody during my regular job.
Chris, it is so good to see you again. I had so much fun the last time we talked, and you were. I tell everybody who's interested in comic books in any way that you are such an incredible evangelist for indie comics and such a sweetheart. Anything I can do to support you and any excuse to come talk to you, I'm down for.
I appreciate you. And like, you've been so instrumental in just like making me feel like a valid member of the journal community, journalism, whatever it's called for comics. So thank you for just sharing what you're doing and being a rad guy. And Doc, I'm sure next time you come on the show in another 8 months or whatever, we'll be having these same love fest conversations. You can call me a sweetheart too. It'll be totally fine by me.
Glowing reviews. Absolutely glowing reviews, I'm sure.
All 5 stars. Even Dave Meltzer.
7 stars now on the Meltzer.
It goes up to 7 now?
Oh, I think it goes up to 9 or something.
That's
I mean,
so
he's
dumb.
I think it's up to Will Ospreay.
Yeah. He is so thoroughly shat on what would have been a great legacy for himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame.
He's made plenty of money. He's making money off of it. He's stayed relevant. He has stayed relevant through all of these generations enough to make people have a feeling about him. What other journalist can say that people have any emotion towards them? So
he's probably more relevant.
Done his job.
He's probably more relevant now, like since the AEW era of like 7 and 9 star matches than he ever has been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now everybody's talking about how many stars a match gets and not just, the tape trading smarks.
Yeah.
Right. He gets to work everybody now, not just them, not just the magazines.
Right.
I love it. This is going to be this is going to be so much fun. It's awesome. Like, anytime I've been watching wrestling for 35 years now. I started when I was a wee little lad, and I actually just met Ricky Steamboat, got my picture with him on Sunday. That was yesterday. And was just like, dude, a ton of people were getting those signed. But like, his match with Macho Man at WrestleMania 3 was like foundational to me becoming a fan, and really like that whole show. But I remember him just being like visually captivating and drawing me into wrestling. We're going to talk all sorts of stuff. I'm getting ahead of myself, kind of. I don't know. I don't have hard. This isn't a hard thing.
Exciting. There's electricity in the air.
I've been to 2 indie wrestling shows in the last 2 weeks. I have been watching wrestling all day today, catching up on AEW stuff.
How do you have a voice?
I don't know. Well, okay, so I do know, because as we were leaving the show, my wife and a buddy of mine, like, who came up that I went to the show at. So last weekend we went to Ascend Pro Wrestling, APW, in a little gym in like a YMCA in Norwood, Ohio, which was amazing. Right. And there were 6 of us, and I am the loud fan at every show I go to. I'm still trying to convince indie promotions that they should just hire me to be like an in-audience plant, because until I start going, I find that a lot of people are just quiet at wrestling shows. And so I'm like, this is a wrestling show. We need to be. Yeah. And so that's
what you pay for. I pay to come out here and yell at people doing the craziest thing they could imagine in their underwear.
Right.
That's what I paid for. And that's what I'm going to do.
I'm getting my money's worth. And so
Carl and I kind of did that for WXWC4, which was Samu, the Wild Samoan show in Allentown for months and months. We were right up with Maven and our buddy Salamander Jones, who did commentary. They're both in the book as a commentary team in Undisputed. and we would get in for free, and we would just sit in the crowd and just make wild asses of ourselves and have most fun and get like we had the crowd hot a couple of times.
We thought about going into business for ourselves. Hey, hire us for your show to be your fans.
Yeah.
Because it was rough back then. It was rough.
Then I had to fuck it up by moving to New England.
You ruin everything, PJ.
I do. I'm a ruiner.
That's unbelievable. One of the managers from the Ascend show 2 weekends ago was there as a fan yesterday at the Appalachian Championship Wrestling, and one of the same Carson Drake, the NWA TV champion right now. I didn't know who he was until Ascend, and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. He's such a good, like, I'm such a mark for wrestlers that are like talking as they're being slammed. Like, I love whatever you want to call that, the in-ring jabbering. I love that. Like, that's why I like MJF so much, because you hear him when he's getting power. I'm like, oh my God, bam! Like, it makes the whole thing better.
It's genuine. It connects with you so much more, and it fills up that space, because otherwise it's just grabby.
It's the Finn Balor like Irish grunting there that my wife pointed out, and now I can't not hear it every Finn Balor match I watch. But she loves his abs, and I have no notes. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. Yeah. But yeah, the manager guy came over and started talking to me just because I was still like cheering on Carson and yelling and being ridiculous. And he was like, are you a fan of his, like, long term? I was like, as of last weekend. Yeah. I didn't know him before then. He was like, oh, well, good for you. And then like, he just stood there during his whole match talking like actual shop with me with the match. And then when it was done, he was like, all right, well, hope to see you at another Ascend show, and like walked off. And I want to be like, you can hire me and pay me to be there, and I'll put over any guy you want me to. Because I'm the one that like, I'll figure out who everybody else doesn't like, even if they're not a heel, the ones that just get like zero reaction. That suddenly is my favorite wrestler of all time. And I go hard for them for however long their match is. And then they leave, and then it's like, all right, who are we rooting for next time? Like, that's why I like going to indie shows, because you don't know the storylines. It's like, I'm just coming in fresh. And so it's like, I don't know, I can root for anybody at this point. Like, who cares? And
that's so important, like, to get out there and actually make some noise, because I'll tell you, it's tough in any crowd if you're not getting any feedback. And it's something that I've seen in a lot of live crowds lately, even going to like comedy shows. It is tough to get any reaction from people, and it gets difficult. Like, you don't know where to go with things. I need a gauge. Are you enjoying what you're getting? Do you want more of it? We'll give it to you, but you have to give some feedback.
Right. Yeah. I same thing. The buddy that I went to both shows with does like stand up here in the Cincinnati area. Yeah. And he was like, when I do an album recording, like, you're coming, I'll buy you drinks, whatever. Like, I need your laugh in the audience because it just raises everybody else. And I was like, yeah, whatever that is, I'll do that full time. Yeah. Like, I'll just go to shows and be the loud voice, because that's just how my life is. So
that's where we get the fulfillment.
Yeah. I like to have fun, and I have fun yelling stupid things like what a maneuver at people when they do like a drop kick. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
So
my favorite is to work the refs. I love doing counts for the refs.
Yeah. Okay.
I love working a ref out of the crowd.
I did offer a ref my glasses 2 weeks ago. And he did something, and he had glasses on, and I was like, you need a new pair of glasses, want mine? And like, even it was a tag match, and the guy that was on the curtain like looked back, like chuckled. My highlight though is I got the cameraman to break and like completely stop focusing on and as a cameraman, I know how much focus it takes to tune out everybody else. And so I forget what I even said, but we yelled something at one of the guys, and like the cameraman just broke and turned the camera and looked at me and was like, dude, come on,
that's man. So the goal too. Like when you're working in the ring, like when you want to try to break each other. That's when you're having fun.
Right.
When you've got good chemistry with somebody and you can work and still like try to get them to break, it's really fun. Like whispering little like Simpsons quotes or something like that, and just try to get them at the weirdest moments.
Yeah.
That's when like it gets really fun out there. And I think you get a better performance out of people.
Yeah, I mean, like it comes through when the performers are having fun, just like when comic writers are making comics that they love and they love the comics that they're making, like that comes through the book. And it's like, oh man, this is someone that knows like all of the, in Undisputed, all of the like kayfabe and he's a mark and that'll get a pop, like all of the industry terms that other people might not know that aren't wrestling fans, which if they're not, like, welcome to the party. But like, cause I love pro wrestling. I have a shirt that says ska and pro wrestling are the only true art forms. And I almost wore it, but then I was like, you're not going to be able to see anything on the shirt. So I was like, I'll just wear a Sting shirt. Cause I plan everything. I'm an over analyzer like that. And I was like, I'm going to make sure I get my Goldie replica and a comic that's got wrestling on it and some of my pop stuff. And I was like,
Is that from Parts Unknown back there?
It is. Issue 1 is the variant WrestleMania 1 homage. Yeah.
Adriano is a really good dude and one hell of a writer.
He is.
I love that dude.
And we have both been on his show. My episode hasn't published yet.
That's going to be incredible.
We had a blast. I had so much fun on that show. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. It really
is. So let's talk Undisputed. Let's hit the like comic thing for the people that came for the comic talk, and then if you're also wrestling people, like hang out because there's going to be so much wrestling. And I just got this bad boy, and so we'll do a live unboxing, which I've never done on the show either. So stoked to do that with you guys. So first of all, Undisputed, like what last time you were on, we were talking zombies and post-apocalypse and radio DJs.
This guy is in that book too.
Come on.
This guy plays the pirate radio DJ / narrator in Taking Out the Dead.
Nice.
Yeah. Which I believe you have seen at least 8 pages of.
Yeah, I have. And I've read the script and yeah. So like how did you, when you were figuring out Undisputed, was it just like I want to make a wrestling comic because I like wrestling?
So coming out of Taking Out the Dead campaign failing so spectacularly, it really kind of took me off my feet for a while, and it took me a little bit to kind of recover. And through the recovery process, I started thinking about those like 80s straight to VHS movies where it's, the grizzled vet versus the evil businessman. And I love those really tropey, shitty 80s action movies.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do my version of that. And I've never seen a version of that story told through the lens of pro wrestling or lucha libre. And having experience, not as much experience in the industry as Carl has, but having some experience with the industry and being backstage and spending time with the boys, being able to tell that story somewhat authentically. And I just sat down, I wrote it. I think it's going to be a 3-issue arc, and I think I wrote the 3 issues in about 2 months while I was at work. And I went to my my editor / creative partner Chris, and I said, I think our move coming out of Taking Out the Dead is to just, if we can, fund. I have this 3-issue story. Let's just make one book. If we can nut up and get 1 issue done, I think we can get a successful campaign for that. And then we can, work on completely telling that story. And then, hopefully we're in a position where we can go back to Taking Out the Dead, which is a much more expensive, kind of long-term project. Okay. And he was down, and he financed the whole thing out of pocket and was just like, yeah, tell me what you need. And we found 2 incredible artists, and we were off to the races.
That's awesome. And I do love the the use of those two different artists to tell two completely different times in the world of when we still had everybody on the active roster wrestling, and then after Hack was like, yo, I'm done, like I'm just gonna have Hack's place and be a bartender. And like having those and then making that distinction was like, and the painting is freaking awesome.
It really is. It's gorgeous.
Such a talent. I hope he gets a ton of comic book bookings out of this. I really do. He's a really talented dude.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like hearing that he actually was like fully painting everything was just like, damn, like that level of artistry for a comic book. Oftentimes I feel like doesn't happen a lot in the indie scene. It's like, yeah, I did something in Procreate and like painted in Procreate, and so like there you go. Which is also like great. Yeah, it's also way beyond anything I can do.
It's a way more efficient way of working these days.
Yeah,
but
it reminded me a lot of like old school like Dark Horse, the original Aliens series, like Earth War. I'm a huge fan of like that era of comics. So when I saw that the artwork was this way, I was instantly hooked because like you guys said, you just don't see that very often anymore.
Yeah.
So it's got that kind of grunge to it that I think it should have. What I think it really, the comic itself really reminds me of, it's as if Vince McMahon never existed. It's as if the business had been protected. It's as if everything is still real to me, damn it. And I really love that because it had a little bit of magic, that sprinkle of magic dust on top of it, because they are still working the masses, which is that old school way, and it worked. It filled houses.
Yeah. And like, I'm just fully admitted, I just love the look of luchadors with the mask in a suit. Like, I think there's no more badass way that any pro wrestler could ever imagine to look than when a luchador has the mask on and a full suit and just walks out like, yeah, I'm a businessman and I'm gonna beat your ass. Like, I just, man, if I could be that when I grow up, 100%.
And we considered putting Montez under a hood too, because just because of that, just because it's, having a businessman wearing a lucha mask is so badass.
Yeah.
But then, having all of our Latino characters under hoods wasn't necessarily the best look for, a Whitey Magoo middle-aged dude creator. So he just ended up with this incredible looking signature scar on his forehead, which I think works. And that and the facial hair just works so great too.
Yeah. So tell me about, for those that don't know, about Undisputed #1, and then maybe like a teaser of what you've got for the rest of the arc that you wrote.
So Undisputed #1, like I said, it's that, it's about a grizzled veteran who wants to get out of the business and an evil businessman that wants to pull him back in. It follows Hack Holloway, who is the undisputed world heavyweight champion. In this world, that title is protected very closely. It's defended every 4 years, like the World Cup. And if you are the undisputed world heavyweight champion, you are at the top of the business. And he is the world champ. He's retired, and it's tournament time. And Tino Montez, who is a promoter that won the rights to promote the tournament that decides who challenges for the title, wants to put the strap on his boy Tigre Negro. And, he doesn't want a paper champion because, like Ric Flair said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. So he wants to pull Hack in for one more fight. So issue 1 is about setting up that conflict. Issue 2 is kind of our Empire Strikes Back. It's where Hack really gets knocked to his knees. And then issue 3 is the Spirit of 76 comeback.
I love it. I love the metaphors. That's so good. So like the Los Tigres with Negro y Blanco, like I just think that as a tag team, that's such a cool, like having the opposites and then even playing that out in the first issue of almost like the good cop, bad cop
Yeah.
of the like, you're coming back, deal with it. And then they're like, listen, buddy, like you got to come back. Come on. Like I love even how it traces that, like matching the color scheme too of like the classic wrestling. Well, he's in black, so he's the heel, and he's in white, so he's the baby face.
Yeah.
It's the like Shawn Michaels Undertaker 2 at WrestleMania of like the heaven and the hell angel demon thing.
Right.
And I like, it's just, that's one of those subtle nuances that you included in the book for wrestling people of like, that's just an added level of like, oh yeah, he's the one that was close. Cause of course he is, he's in white.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was totally intentional. You know, I see the Tigres looking at themselves as gunslingers in the Old West, and Tigre Negro, he's a black hat cowboy. He's a bad guy. And Tigre Blanco, he's not. You know, he's the younger brother. He's the brother that's overlooked. He's tagging along with his brother. He's going where his brother goes because it's his brother, but he's not necessarily a heel. He's not necessarily a Rudo.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and
what I really love is you stick to that VHS style, right? And that includes, I think, the tropes, you know, which is important. It's easy to digest. It makes you instantly know, which is like, that's a huge part of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Within 10 seconds of coming out of the curtain, you should know whether that's a good guy or a bad guy.
Yeah.
And having that in the comic, you know, you make it easily digestible to know where this story is going. But at the same time, now you're not sure. You're wondering, where's the swerve going to be?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people will know by about page 9 exactly where this story is going. It's just, hopefully I tell it in a way that keeps them interested in the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause that's just as crucial of like the full, you know, psychology of the match to lead to the finish. Yeah. Like the process to get there is as important as the result is. And so absolutely, like, especially with comics, like it's all everything is the process, right? Until the last, like maybe 3 pages of the final issue of the arc. And up until then, it's just constantly building tension and adding conflict and adding more character and more development and more psychology and more bumps and more all the things to then finally get the payoff in that final issue. So super stoked. And it feels like a natural segue. You've mailed out the rewards. I know not everybody has.
We're mailing them out. We haven't gotten them all out in the mail. You were one of the first to get yours. I wanted to make sure that you had it for tonight.
And because I have it, I've never done a unboxing during a live stream episode before. So as I struggle to cut this open,
cut to Chris is getting all
the drum roll from Christmas Vacation.
All right, so we've got the super slick Gemini mailer. Not going to show that off either, but we're going to cut right into it.
I'm so excited.
With my handy dandy knife here. I love these cards. Shut up. It's so good. So we'll get to the comic, but first you threw these into the rewards. Which is so great. The 91, man, I just got a pack of these. My buddy that's the comedian that I went to the shows with just like found a ton of these at like an antique store, and he bought the whole freaking box. And he was like,
I got it for like $20.
Yeah. He was like, I don't know. Like every time we've gone over to his house for a pay-per-view, he's like, here's some cards. All right, now open them and we got to see who everybody got. Yeah. So I'm going to open those too. I love this because it's so freaking true. We got to support indie on behalf of the entire Undisputed. Ooh, it's a nice little thank you note on the back. You're so nice, PJ. Love that. And it's got all your links and stuff. Here's that painted main cover.
Beautiful.
As a pinup. Yeah, dude, like this mustache too. Come on.
How great is it?
But then here's the Los Tigres and Hack and the big FMLL belt, which you had replicas made. which is insane. Dude, that's so
Very
cool,
This
man.
was a reward tier. And one person got this belt. This is the bigger belt. This is 28-inch. One person got it. It's my buddy Johnny C, who you should have on your show because he's another incredible writer.
Nice.
He does Sartana and a bunch of other projects up here in Massachusetts.
Okay.
But yeah. So
yeah, make that connection. Let's get that network happening. And then here was the variant cover that I had to get because, like, dude, get out of here. Trying not to have it super reflective, but like this just feels like an old promo poster, right? Of like appearing tonight, Los Tigres. I was like, that's the one that I got to do.
Yeah. So that cover was done by Juan Ortiz, who is one of the most sought after pro wrestling graphic designers. I mean, name somebody he's worked for him. You know, he did the Lucha Bros logo. He works with Ray Phoenix and Penta all the time. Dude, he's done stuff for AEW, the Young Bucks, Ric Flair. You just name somebody, and this guy's done a design for him. He's incredible, and his work is great. And he came up with the idea of doing like an old Lucha magazine with like the wear and tear on the edges and everything else.
The print's kind of fading on it too. Like, yeah, man.
So good.
Yeah, he's so good. So awesome.
All right. And then because I freaking had a ton of these in my mom's basement. I had the box, right? When they used to do the like card shows at like Holiday Inn and stuff. I was going to those with my dad because he was a big like baseball card collector. Yeah. And if we found like pro wrestling cards, he was like, I'll buy a couple packs. So I used to have a ton of these and I think they got damaged. But there we go. Classic Flair Sting.
Oh man.
Talk about foreshadowing.
Woo!
We got here Southern Boys. Oh yeah. Steve Armstrong and Tracy Smothers. We got Missy Hyatt. Gotta have a good manager in there.
Yeah.
From Tallahassee, Florida. Let's see. Good old Arn Anderson. Dude, have you shaken Arn Anderson's hand? It's like
meat.
It's just solid callus.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild. Super nice guy though. But yeah, there's Flying Brian.
Love it.
What a great pack so far.
Yeah. Oh, and who's he wrestling there? One of the Freebirds of the WCW era, I think.
It looks like it. Of course, it doesn't say it on the back. Yeah.
I was just watching it because they've got WCW streaming on YouTube now.
Yeah, they do.
How amazing is that?
Doom.
Nice.
Taking it to Flair.
Nice.
Oh, I think I have a. Oh no. Okay, I have another. So here's another Doom card. That was on the back.
Yeah.
All right. Who else we got here? El Gigante. Oh man. I don't know about you. I don't buy into the gimmicks of the like, here's a giant dude that's just a giant guy.
That looks like if you kicked him in the knee a couple of times, he'd be having a bad day.
Yeah. Like at least Big Show, put on the muscle and stuff too. Terry Taylor. I'm going to out myself. Can't say that I'm familiar with him, but that's okay.
The Red Rooster. Yeah.
We get the Steiner brothers.
Nice.
Math magicians, the Steiners.
Oh yeah. Just classic math magicians. Ricky Morton. What a guy.
Nice.
Still has that mullet.
Same guy that Flying Brian was wrestling, I think.
Hasn't changed at all.
No.
Absolutely wild. And then last but not least, RIP to his leg, Sid Vicious.
And RIP in general as well.
In general, yeah.
Ooh.
That's a good pack because a lot of these packs have a bunch of doubles in them. So you lucked out, man.
The last one that my buddy got me, I had a double of Sting, which I was like, that's fine because Sting's he's my guy. So speaking of Sting, see, we're just flowing right through here, boys. All right, so I want to ask, everybody always talks like, who's your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers? And then everybody always argues about why their Mount Rushmore is wrong and whatever. And I'm not interested in that. I want to know what each of your Mount Rushmore for matches that made you fans are. So 4 matches that after you saw them are like, yep, this is my thing. I'm in it for life. I already mentioned, I'll go first because, again, I've been thinking about this all day. This is what I was doing when I had my team meeting this morning, was writing this out.
As one does.
Sorry, boss, although I'm really not. The first one I already mentioned was the Steamboat and Macho Man match from WrestleMania 3.
Mm-hmm.
That match for me, like, move wise and even finish, like, I really don't remember. I just remember being captivated. Like, it was such, like, that match, it along with the rest of that pay-per-view, was a guy that lived down the street from me brought his VHS tape and was like, you gotta his Hulk Hogan somebody stuffed animal. And like, we were doing the moves leading up to the main event of Andre and Hogan. And I just, like, him slamming Andre was a big deal. But for me, it was Steamboat and Macho Man that were just like, this is awesome. I need, and it's not the worn out, overplayed chants. I've been a fan for too long because I have some problems with things that, like, are now just part of the wrestling lore. I hate the "this is awesome" chants because they'll do it at just not every match has to be a "this is
They're
awesome."
just getting themselves over.
Yeah,
not everybody
they're
has
happy
to
to
fight
be there.
forever. Not every match is awesome.
Yeah. Not every match can be 5 stars, Dave, because then you have to create new tiers for your star rating, you idiot. Like, it's that. And so, but that was the first one. And like WrestleMania 3, that, and then like we had the old TV where you would turn it on and it would scan until it landed on a channel. And it would land on like the Saturday morning Slam Masters or whatever the hell that show was called in the late 80s, early 90s. And I would watch that. And like, it was old Ric Flair matches and like a bunch of the OG like NWA guys. And like, that was my first exposure to wrestling. But then WrestleMania 3 was the first one that I was like, this. And then I went all in, super, super all in. My mom got hooked because she liked the WCW product. She has always had the biggest crush on Kevin Nash of all people.
She's not alone in that. She's not alone in that.
Right. Like,
there's a reason he's called Big Sexy.
Yeah, I get it. But she was always like, he just has the prettiest teeth. And I was like, are we really talking about his teeth, Mom? Like, is that what we're talking about?
It's a good cover, Mom.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like, he's got straight, nice white teeth for a wrestler. I don't, whatever.
Can't say the rest in front of you, though.
Yeah, my junior high ears would have been like, "Ew, gross, Mom." But so I was very much I super got into it in like mid to late 90s and during all of the biggest hype when everybody got into it, right? So like the next match, it shouldn't be any surprise. Sting Hogan at 97 Uncensored. I know the match itself, like reading back on it, there were a lot of issues. And if I watched it now, I'd be like, ugh, that's not good. But at the time, holy shit, was I hyped. Like Sting and Hogan, and he's dropping from the ceiling and he's got the bat and I was all in on all. And when I met Sting a couple of years ago, after I found my voice and stopped freaking out, I told him like that lead up of you not talking made me feel okay that like sometimes I just didn't have anything to say. And like, I like, Sting doesn't talk and he's one of the most popular people ever. So if he can do it, I can do it. And so like the Sting Hogan, the whole lead up, the whole payoff, which ended up into just a big mess. Again, at the time I was in, like hooked 100%.
The emotion was there. And that's what, even though the match may not have delivered perfectly, it still got that emotion. You still got that electricity of them finally meeting up. It's finally happened, and it all built to that.
Yep. Yeah. So that's my second match. and these aren't in like favorite order. They're just whatever. Cause I'd hate to put these in a favorite order. Another one is Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio title versus mask at Halloween Havoc 97. Because Rey Mysterio was doing shit that I never saw anybody do. And I was like, how in the hell is this like 5'2" dude doing all of these insane things? Like, he was so good. And like, he and Sting were my forever two dudes. And now I've gotten to meet and get pictures with both of them. And so like telling them like, yo, when I was watching you, I just had no idea how you were real. Like, I don't get it. I don't know how you did anything that you were doing. And like, so that match. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Taker Mankind Hell in a Cell at King of the Ring from 98, because like, come on, that's could be on everybody's, right?
So
that match has to be on everyone, because it was just like, oh my God, Taker literally just killed him. Like, Mick Foley's dead. And then he gets up and then he kills him again. And then he gets up and then he kills him a third time in front of his family. Like, it doesn't get any better. And watching them talk about it as they're watching it.
Yeah.
Which if you haven't done that, like, it's I think a half-hour video on YouTube somewhere. It's fantastic because they meet and they're hugging each other. And then they sit down and watch the match where they were just murdering each other for 25 minutes straight. So that's my like fandom Mount Rushmore. If I was doing like a top favorite matches, it would be different. But I don't want to get into the knuckle draggers because shut up. It's my opinion, and those are the matches that got me hooked as a fan. And so I would love to hear what yours are as well.
PJ, you go ahead with this one first.
So that is Fluid Factory did the music. When you download Undisputed #1, Fluid Factory did theme songs for all the characters. So what's up, Fluid Factory?
Nice.
I don't want to expose names, but
such a cool thing too to like include that with a pro wrestling comic book. Like, I love that was in there. I was like, this is such a complete total package, Lex Luger.
And we put a lot of thought and Fluid Factory put a lot of work into getting the theme songs right. And I think they hit tones, and I think they did a great job. I can't say enough about the music that they put together. It's incredible.
Yep.
But so let's see. I think my first match would have to be Hogan versus Andre the Giant. And quick aside, my mom's best friend for decades, she was a sound tech at that WrestleMania.
What?
She worked the first 2 or 3 WrestleManias in the sound truck.
Holy crap.
So my Aunt Janice was there.
That's awesome.
And Aunt Janice was one of the people. Like, I realized not too long ago that like all of my heroes through my life have been women in my life. Like Aunt Janice, my Aunt Ann, my mom, my grandmother, whose last name I use as my pen name. That's but cool. So Aunt Janice was at that match, and I think I was young enough to like just be like, oh my God, Hulk Hogan just killed himself slamming Andre the Giant. It blew my mind as a kid. And then, like we all do, get into and out of wrestling. And then in the 90s, I would say any ECW match, but probably the first time I saw Rob Van Dam and Sabu. I mean, those two guys just, they took pro wrestling and made it an absolute art form and just introduced Americans to a completely new style of wrestling. And still influencing the business. The stuff they were doing in the 90s is still influencing guys.
Yeah, every time somebody sets up a chair and then hits the ropes, I'm like, Sabu.
Spot. Yeah, absolutely.
Every time.
Yeah. And then you got to give me a series. The feud between the Naturals and America's Most Wanted in the early days of the TNA era. When Jimmy Hart was the mouth for the Naturals, Chase Stevens and Carl, help me out with the Naturals. It was Chase Stevens and I always forget the other guy's name.
Nope, can't help you on that one. I was a WWF mark back then. I only really got into WCW later on once it became more readily available. Like,
well, we both grew up in WWF territories, right? Like,
yeah,
because you're from Lancaster County, and that
York,
that's not far enough from Philly, and Philadelphia was a primarily WWF town.
Andy Douglas was the other one.
Thank you, Andy Douglas.
Google,
and
not me.
That's it, yeah.
But it was the Naturals versus America's Most Wanted, and every week they were just tearing the house down. And it was, the Naturals did nothing after that. And James Storm went on to be James Storm, and Chris Harris is still working indie shows. But that feud, for some reason, just got me really hyped to watch wrestling in the early aughts. And, I was lucky enough that I lived in Philly, and I had access to great indie wrestling every week, whether it was Shikara or Combat Zone Wrestling or Dragon Gate USA or Ring of Honor or a spot show. There was just always incredible indie wrestling. And I guess my fourth has to be a CZW match between Greg Excellent and Mia Yim, which is something I wrote about on Substack maybe a month or two ago.
Fantastic.
Dude, that whole feud was incredible. And I remember, not in a post Me Too era, this sign shouldn't be, but I remember that feud was so hot that the match before the blow-off match at the arena, somebody had made a giant cardboard cutout of Mia Yim that had a cardboard articulating penis that went in and out of her mouth because she had so much heat in that feud with Greg.
Jeez.
And, they call Greg Excellent the indie taker because you just can't have a bad match with him. Yeah, and the blow-off match was at a Gold's Gym, and it was a TLC match. And I think Greg got concussed about 3 minutes into the match, but it didn't matter. It was one of the best blow-off matches ever. It was one of the best.
It was ever. Magic. Like, that was for something that, came from like a real super indie kind of show, blew up. Everybody ended up seeing
too. Like, it wasn't a featured angle for CZW in any way, shape, or form, and turned out being the main event because it had so much heat. They got so over in 3 or 4 shows. It was incredible.
It was a trailblazer. Like, there wasn't intergender wrestling like that.
No.
Lucha Underground hadn't been around to show you Penta and fucking
Io.
And just seeing all these different intergender matches that we do now, like, they kind of did it first in the modern era, and they did it really well.
They did it really well. Now Mia Yim's working WWE, and last I saw, she was in a main event angle with Bayley.
Yeah, she was working with Nia for a bit there where, she's that hand where you need to make somebody look good. She's going to make them look like gold. And she's a reliable worker. She doesn't ever raise a stink. She's who you want to have on a roster as a pro.
Yeah. I think she learned a lot from Greg in that angle. And I think Greg did a great job of taking care of her, but also letting her showcase her skills as a professional wrestler. He treated her like a wrestler, not like a girl in the wrestling ring.
Yes.
And I know Mia has said that that's one of the reasons it worked so well, but it is the reason it worked so well. Greg treated her like a professional wrestler.
That's cool. Yeah. And there is a definite distinction between that, like treating a woman wrestler as a professional wrestler instead of a like, oh, you're a professional wrestling woman. Like, that's and I think a lot of, right, a lot of that is like that divas stigma that Trish and Lita started to break away from, of like, no, we can do the same shit that the guys can do. And like, I also, Lita's my forever crush, and my wife is fully aware, and It's fine. Everything's fine. She was there when I got my picture taken in a prom pose with Lita, which I normally don't do this, but like there it is.
Oh my God, that's great.
You know what I'm saying? So
That's
like
I've had the same conversation with my wife about Tori Wilson, and we walked past her at a Comic-Con, and she goes, "You want to get your picture taken with her?" No, I don't.
But
no.
yeah, kind of.
But also, like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom for 30 to 50 minutes, depending on how long I have to wait in line. Can I have the cash? And so I love the variety too of like including the ECW and CZW, because I didn't discover any of that until post college when I was like, why am I not watching wrestling? Like, I love wrestling. Why am I not watching it? And then that's when I got back into it. And then I discovered all of the, I mean, being in Philly, like, were you like right there for the 2300 all the time?
No, I didn't go to any ECW shows.
Oh man.
But Philadelphia from like 93 to like maybe 2011 was like graduate school for pro wrestling. I mean, it was just all over the place. And I was fortunate enough that in the early aughts, I was able to go to a lot of shows, and I had a chance to be, I'm very thankful to Maven Bentley that I was backstage for the last show at the original ECW arena.
That's
and
awesome.
Standing at Gorilla and saw the New Jack run in and the Todd Gordon run in and all that. And I did see a lot of great wrestling in that building before the renovation. And I'm 46 now, and as a person who's been a wrestling fan for 4 decades, I'm really, really fortunate that I was able to experience. I saw ECW on TV, but I saw ECW live when it was on TV.
Yeah.
And to experience that indie renaissance really that happened from like 99 to like 2011.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It created careers for generations. I mean, Hat Guy became a manager out on the indie scene for years now.
I actually just saw Shane Douglas, Francine, and one of the the guy that Shane shook the neck broken thing.
Gary Wolf.
Yeah, they were all just here in Hamilton yesterday, and they all did a match, and my buddy, again with the cards and the comedian, and who also went to a ton of Shikara and early ROH shows, was like, that's like they got in the ring and faced off, and then they like embraced and shook hands and like raised each other's arms before the match even began. Everybody was losing their minds, and I was like, why? Because they're just two like ECW originals. Like, I don't get it. He was like, I'll send you a video later, and like this is kind of significant for like long-term storytelling. And then he sent me the video, and I was like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? So yeah. All right, Doc, you're up. No more.
So if I have to go by it's the ones that kind of kept me in, hooked me when I first started watching. I'm very much that Attitude Era also. I started watching, my brother like held me down and forced me to watch pro wrestling. I did not want to. I screamed and fought and didn't want to, but he was 7 years older than me, held me down and made me watch a Ric Flair match, and boom, there it was. I got hooked. I can't even remember who his opponent was. But when I got to think Mount Rushmore, I think Macho Steamboat, is on there. It is, I think, one of the most influential pro wrestling matches of all time. Yeah. I think it has reflected the current style more than anything. I just remember they even played it over and over and over again, and it became so ingrained, and it was so good that I think that the wrestlers of today, all of them are influenced in some way. And then with how much we got of like understanding the match, how much they've talked about it, how it kind of it gave away the secrets. Like Macho coming out, and he would write every move, every single segment of that match was pre-planned, and it was meticulous. That's the way that Macho Man worked. And I think that also lent itself to the current stars, because they like to know their spots. They want to know what's next. They want to know the story from start to end in a certain way, you know? So I think that when we look at modern wrestling, Macho Steamboat, I think is number one most influential. Rock versus Hogan at Mania 18. I remember watching that, and I don't think live, at least, I had never seen a reaction from people in that way. So seeing the crowd like explode, and literally you could sense the electricity from The Rock at that time was the biggest man in the world. Like, and it was like new and interesting. And here was Hogan came back, and you didn't know who he was going to be showing off against. And it was those two together. And that match, the way it developed, how it was almost like a resurrection of Hulk Hogan, you know, from the NWO to, no, I'm going to fight this as Hulk Hogan, not Hollywood Hogan. So you not only came into this match, but then you changed through it where it was a face turn midway, and he still took the pin. Like, what a great match. I just really remember Mania 18 being one of those special events for me. The next one I would say is Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, Hell in a Cell, where Kane debuted. That match and the build-up was perfect. It was, you know, it started with Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and Undertaker, and that chair shot. It led up to the Hell in a Cell match that debuted Kane, and the match itself was just so good. It was like best Shawn Michaels with best Undertaker. And I have that so dear in my heart because of Mania 25. Mania 25 is my favorite match of all time. Now, politically, I am suffering very much from how these people end up being, but like they say, don't ever meet your heroes. So please don't judge me based on my favorite wrestling matches. But Taker versus HBK was so good. And then for them to kind of recreate that magic at Mania 25 and 26, like that, that made me love wrestling so much. I had to be in it, you know? So I have that. And then finally, Stone Cold Bret Hart.
Mania 13.
Yeah, just absolutely, like, that was wrestling. That was what pro wrestling is, and it helped it to evolve from where Bret Hart inherited this company that was the Hogan Vitamin cartoon era, where it was all these caricatures, to Bret Hart being able to show real athleticism, real work, you know, to sell in a realistic way. And then handing that off to Stone Cold Steve Austin in such a symbolic way, where that crimson mask, man, it just, I could watch that every day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I see. I'm getting chills because like that match at the time, I was like, okay, like this is good, like cool. Oh, he's bleeding. Oh, that's like that's big. But after the fact, like if I were to make what do I think are like just the best matches, that's on my list. Like that's one of the 4 that I would keep on there. And I almost had it on when I first was thinking about the list. Bless you. When I was first thinking about the list, I almost put it down. And then I was like, no, my appreciation for that match didn't come until after I was like deconstructing everything. And like, I feel like that match is like a psychological masterpiece of just like, I never understood. I heard people like, oh, the psychology of the match. And I was like, I don't get that. Like, what does that mean? And then I watched that match and I was like, oh, that
made Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, you had the 316 speech in King of the Ring, but he didn't like earn his stripes with the crowd until he showed, man, you can't break me. I'm so damn angry. I'll die right here in a pool of my own blood. And that was when Stone Cold Steve Austin Breaking Glass, you know, was born, I think.
Yeah, and another one that I wanted to put on, but I couldn't because I didn't see it at the time, is Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Intercontinental Ladder Match Mania 10. Like, holy shit. Talk about like paving the way.
Yeah.
Like, not Edge and Christian and the Hardys and the Dudleys aren't doing TLC if that match didn't happen. Like,
Exactly.
there's no way. And everything that they did, they were doing innovative stuff, even by today's standards. Of like, you see all the classic bumps of going through the ladder stretch between the ring and the announce table, or you know, the chairs with the table and going through, like, they were doing innovative stuff in that match with the ladder that some, like, you still don't see people taking, because it's just like, oh god, that's
ladder matches are tough too. Ladder matches take a certain balance where it's got to have enough of like the story, but the match needs to be focused on, why am I climbing that ladder? And I think that they always made it about that. It was always trying to get the ladder in position to work your way up, or I'm using this ladder to stop you from being able to stop me. And that's what I think they miss in a lot of ladder matches, is that they just don't focus on the basics. Like, you need to be telling that story with this match and make it make sense.
Yeah.
Instead of spots.
Make it make sense. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I do feel like that's missing in like a lot of what wrestling has become, is like, it's just how insanely over the top can we be to get people talking and generate buzz. And it's not the like, oh, this is a 60+ minute Iron Man match between HBK and Bret Hart, and like, let's see who can out wrestle each other for 60 minutes. Like, it's not like, when was the last Iron Man match that, like, I don't even know. I feel like the last one, I don't even know who it was.
Shawn Michaels, they had that one. What was that? 2009, I want to say.
What about
Bryan Danielson? Yeah. Yeah. So like it happens, but it's so hard to like catch that attention because it's the gift generation. You know, even the workers, you know, they're chasing that social media hug instead of telling that story that's going to stick with people. And
do you think that like we'll get back to that at some point? That there's too much. I mean, no offense,
I think we are. Like, I think we are in the current. I think WWE's been doing that a lot more. I think you look at a guy like Cody Rhodes, and he has told a story for almost 2 decades now. Like, he has made it so when you're watching a match, it's not just the greatest hits. It's what's he going to use in this match to try to finish it? What's he going to have to use to overcome the odds? And I think that really hits well with the target audience, which is kids.
Yeah.
Because, like, you asked for the Mount Rushmore of what hooked people. That's what we should be working towards. Like, you want to hook that younger audience. You want to be the Magic, the superhero in real life. Like, that's what pro wrestling really is. It's great to perform it for us and get to pop the boys in the back. But man, what you should really be wanting to do is get those kids to beg their parents to keep buying tickets and buy merch because they can't get enough of them. And I think that's really missing from a lot of wrestling.
Yeah.
I hope you're right.
Yeah. I would love for it to get back to, I'm a 3.5 decade fan of, like, I'm tired of the flash and trash matches of just like, let's do an insane spot. There's no stories because we're just getting to this one spot because it's going to blow everybody's minds and everybody's going to see the replay, and it's going to be a, you know, TikTok video and a reel and a YouTube short, and it's going to get shoved down everybody's faces for the next 6 months. But like, give me the Omega Okada at Wrestle Kingdom, like 6 or whatever it was, when they just went for like 56 minutes or something, just like destroying each other
Yeah.
in a very intentional way. It wasn't just violence for the sake of violence, which is weird talking about pro wrestling, but like that's one of those modern, I feel like when they met, the first time was just like magic. And I definitely only caught it after the fact. Like I was not hip to New Japan until that match. And then seeing people talking like, oh my God, Omega Okada. And I was like, who are they? Like, what am I missing? Because everybody's talking about this match. And so then I was able to find it and watch it. And I was like, oh my God.
Gives you a totally different perspective on wrestling too, because man, that's such a different crowd.
Yeah.
And it's the same way I think about the world. The more languages, the more exposure you get, the more you start to understand just people, just the art of things. And the way that some people might see it one way is because their language is that way. So I think once you expose yourself to this different wrestling out there, it makes you like kind of reborn as a fan. You see it from a new perspective to love it. You know, like with PJ, the Undisputed is so much rooted in that rudo, that you know, lucha style wrestling is kind of the arch of everything. So it sticks to that kind of that safe base. And that's when it's easily digestible, when it tells a good story, when you want to see who wins and loses. I think that's everything.
And I think talking about languages as far as pro wrestling goes, I think that's one of the things that ECW doesn't get anywhere near the credit it deserves, because it did introduce Americans to Lucha Libre. Excuse me. It did introduce Americans to Japanese Puro style. Mm-hmm. You know, it brought in all of these international influence. It was the first place where you saw Eddie Guerrero's Psychosis, you know, Masato Tanaka. I mean, you know, these guys who have had phenomenal careers.
Yeah.
I don't know that they get over here if it's not for ECW. Chris Jericho, even, because he made his bones in Japan.
Yep.
You know, and I think for all of Paul Heyman's faults, which are well documented and numerous, I think his legacy shouldn't necessarily be barbed wire and blood. I think it should be Lucha Libre and Puro.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a weird, like, watching ECW after the fact, because I missed all of it. Like, and I know there's no way I could have turned that on. I turned it on one time at my Nana's house. Like we were sitting.
Oh, Nana was not going to play that shit.
Nana, don't look at the crucifixion. No.
So we're sitting in her kitchen. She's making like homemade mac and cheese and all of this stuff for me. And I just like turned on the little black and white TV that she had in the corner of her kitchen by the table. And I was flipping channels and I saw wrestling. I was like, oh, that's a wrestling ring. I don't know what this is, but like, who cares? It's wrestling. And so I left it on. And then somebody put out a cheese grater as she's like putting down the plates of mac and cheese. And she was like, what are we watching? I was like, oh, it's pro wrestling. I love this stuff. She's like, who are they? I was like, I have no idea. I've never seen this before. Like, usually it's on Monday nights. I don't know what this is. And
it's better planning than that Nick Gage spot with the Domino's Pizza ad.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Like, it was so, and as soon as they like showed off she was like, what is that? I was like, I think that's a cheese grater. And like everything, you could just feel the like dread of like, oh God, what's he gonna do? Oh, and it's like a tiny little screen, right? It's like maybe a 7-inch TV. And so we're like leaning in to see this little tiny, I think it was Shane Douglas. I think it was Shane Douglas that just grated the shit out of somebody's face. And he like sticks it on, and it wasn't just like the, you know, violence that I had gotten used to seeing on WWE and WCW at the time, where it was like, oh, they went through a tear. Ha, 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 they broke a table. Ha. It was like, no, we're going to zoom in as this shaves skin off of this guy's skull. and I was, yeah, and it got real close, and it's just the dude's face, and I think you could see through some of the grates on the cheese grater as he's pulling it on his, and you just see the blood erupting, and I was like, oh no, and just like, nope. And she was like, what was?
Turn the TV off, take the TV off the counter, put it in the trash,
throw it into the street. Yeah,
it's family entertainment.
I was like, I've never watched that. I don't know what that is. 10 a.m. on a Saturday. I need to. But like, that's how I was introduced to ECW.
That was the times when it was really important to have the last channel button on the remote. Yeah, that's something that kids will never have to understand. Oh the last channel button. Always set to the Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or something, ready to get away real quick.
Yeah. Well, I used to watch it. Like I said, I used to watch it on Monday nights with my mom. Like that was our bonding at the like 6th, 7th, 8th grade into freshman year of before I discovered girls was like, I'm going to watch wrestling with my mom because she likes the stories and she liked Lex Luger and she liked Kevin Nash. And I just liked everybody and especially Lita. And so like, but it was one of the, like the Edge and Lita, like sex segment. It was definitely like she went to the bathroom and I was like, click.
I was there live for that.
Shut your mouth.
In Hershey, Pennsylvania. Oh, yeah. I remember going there with a friend of mine. And I think I was 16 at the time and had snuck, a case of Coors Light in the back seat. And I remember going in there and I bought a Kurt Angle, Born in America, Born to be Angry, when he was going through his headbutting Kurt Angle phase,
Yeah.
So that I still have that shirt. And I remember when that happened and she sat up without any top. Live. They didn't get this on camera, but Carl did see this, and it was a very formative experience.
Core memory.
Yeah. Very important. Very important to my psyche.
Yeah, these are the memories, that really form us as we are as adults now. And
just a disclaimer, I am not actually a real doctor. I have a master's degree. I'm a therapist. I do work with pro wrestlers. I've had several focus groups, webinars, things like that, but I am not a doctor. So please, anything that I say on here is not medical advice in any way, shape, or form, okay?
That's why I'll just call you Doc. I figured your name could be Doc, so. Oh, I was at I had to look up the card because I completely forgot everything. I was at WCW's Uncensored or Sold Out. I don't know. I don't even remember what the hell show it was. It was in 2000. It was in Cincinnati. And I went because Vampiro was supposed to wrestle Crowbar. And dude, I loved Vampiro. I had a thing for dudes with the black and white makeup, I guess. But I never liked the movie.
Was the era.
So like whatever. But yeah, like I was so like we were, maybe 4 or 5 rows up towards the back corner of the floor though. But I have a picture and I couldn't find it because I wanted to be like, check it out. I was there. But I don't remember anything else about that show other than I got to see Vampiro live and like the green lights that he came out to, everything was pitch black and it was just all green. And I was like, this is like foreshadowing of my like emo goth phase. And it sure as shit was, because
this better not awaken something in me.
Meanwhile, can we talk about how a Crowbar match was a must-see match? Has anyone ever said that?
Hey, I'll tell you, on the indies right now, you can. On any indie card, if he gets in there, he's going to show you a great match, and he's going to help make that kid a star. So it's a big shout out to Crowbar right now on the indie scene. He worked a match with Twitch at the Monster Factory in the ECW arena, and it was phenomenal.
That's awesome.
By the way, do you want to put over the Monster Factory TV show?
Oh yeah. So the Monster Factory is where I trained for wrestling. Danny Cage, owner, operator. Damian Priest came out of there. He was one of the trainers when I went through. So really cool to get to learn from a lot of really experienced guys. And then got to do a lot of really cool stuff with them. So some of this got documented along the way. And you can watch it on Apple TV Plus, which is on Prime or on the Apple app. And they have a season about somebody that I manage, Gabriella Ortiz. She's a phenomenal talent. She absolutely kills it. She's currently out with a hand injury, but that's the performer I currently manage. So check that out, Monster Factory. Great show. Yeah, it's The Monster Factory.
Sweet.
And it tells the story of a couple of folks that are still there, that are still really working hard to try to achieve their dreams. And they grind, that place that you have to earn your spot, that I spent about 6 years actively there. I went back for a going away show for somebody about a month ago, and they're still doing great work. Cool. So highly recommended.
I stumbled into the OVW show on Netflix, Wrestlers. Mm-hmm. I was not prepared to get it as invested as I did in that show. And then I was like, wait, Ohio Valley, I'm in Ohio. Where the hell? And it's like,
so
if I wanted
from you, right?
Yeah. Well, if I went to their home shows, it's like just under 2 hours from me.
Okay.
They were working out of Kentucky. Like Louisville, Kentucky. A lot of the time.
Yeah, a lot of I just saw after this past weekend, I was like, what other indie shows can I go to? And I saw a promo for OVW. It's still in Louisville. And I was like, man, that's like a 3-hour drive for me. That's like a 3.5-hour drive just to get there.
Yeah.
Hey, it could be a fun weekend though. Louisville's a hell of a town.
What I hear.
I had a lot of fun there, my youth.
I just know of the Phoenix House in Louisville, and there's a completely separate story that I would have to tell you off air. That is just like it's one of my favorite nights of all time. Was at the Phoenix House in Louisville, Kentucky, which on a Wednesday night. Like it was insane.
Magic happens.
I tell everybody that story. So I can tell you after we go off the air because it's so rad. Shout out to Mark Robinson in Seattle, Washington, running companies and being CEO and a marketing mastermind. 10 years younger than me, and he's got way more money than I do. But good for him. He's got that hustle. But I remember what you did at the Phoenix House, my friend. So
and here's his routing number, just in case you don't want him to tell the story.
You know where I'm at on PayPal, and you can find me. So how you said you guys have known each other for a long time. I want to start some heat. How did you guys meet?
August 13th, 2011. The Asylum Arena, the former ECW Arena, CZW Tangled Web 4.
No.
I'm standing in the back with Carl, Adam Flash, and BJ Whitmer. And that's where I met Carl.
No. I would love to say that that's where I was. That's very good company to be in at that time. But I have photographic evidence. It was June 2nd, 2011. I'd been out of the Army for a couple of months. And I went to an MMA show at the 2300 Arena with Adam Flash. Now, I tried to find what show that would be, but I'll tell you, to find a random MMA show that was at the 2300 Arena at that time in 2011, I haven't found it yet. But probably could talk to Maven. He might know.
It was Locked in the Cage, Thursday Night Fights 1.
That sounds right.
I was a booker on. It was a complete gong show. I was working for a promotion. I won't name it. I think I just did, but I won't name it again because the promoters are. Anyway.
Lovely human being, I'm sure.
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. He's a promoter. We'll put it that way.
Okay, yeah. I was trying to give a little bit.
So we got tipped off from the commission that the UFC was coming to town. That that summer. We got the date of the UFC show, and then they suggested everybody's going to be in town because the fights are Saturday night, weigh-ins are Friday night. Everybody comes in Thursday so that they can do their last-minute cuts, blah, 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 whatever. They suggested we run a Thursday night show to try to get that UFC crowd. We did not. But we did run the ECW arena on, I believe it was June 2nd, 2011.
Yep. I have a picture. Hold on, let me adjust the brightness here. So I have a picture of me. I am, man, I looked at it and I have the worst cringe ever. Like, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight after seeing this awful picture of me at 23 years old in 2011.
I do miss Bandana Carl.
I
miss Bandana Carl.
That was when I had a full head of hair.
Awesome.
Those were good times, man.
Same.
So I feel like we put this to bed. I don't know. You know what time it was. You were there. We just identified via picture. It's before the date that you said. So I may have been a Tangled Web. I don't know.
I'm not in that picture, though.
But you were there. You were at that arena. That was the Octagon there.
I'm not in the picture.
I mean, he does have a point, though. He's not in that picture. I was expecting one of
your buttered Chris.
I can't convince. All I can do is present evidence and hope that you'll be rational human beings. And in this day and age, that's not a lot of hope for most people.
No, it's not.
It was a Tangled Web 4 where Scotty Vortex almost lost a thumb.
I would remember that. I probably would have tried to take the thumb home.
Keep it in like a little Ziploc bag and get in like
it'd be in my lockbox. Every now and then pulling it out, like the toe shot. Like, have you guys ever seen the toe shot where they put this nasty mummified toe in a shot glass, pour it, and you drink it? Oh yeah, this is real. They don't know whose toe it is, but it's a real human toe.
I have so many questions.
But do you want any of them answered?
I just want one answered. I'm not even going to ask the other ones.
It's the sour toe.
Have you
in Dawson City,
toe? Have
Canada?
You done the toe shot?
No, God, no.
All right. Okay. Well, you have such intimacy knowledge with this.
I love oddities. I love medical oddities, weird stuff out there. I vast knowledge of that. So it's just one of those things that's up there.
Okay. That's fair. I'd only ever heard like the thought of doing the tequila shot with the worm. I was like, I'm not doing that. And then I remember like
worm. That's how you black out.
I remember being a kid and like eating worms. And I'm like, it can't be that different, right? And tequila and I don't get along though. So I just won't. The drunkest I've ever been was a friend of mine found a bottle of like 30-year-old tequila in her grandmother's kitchen, like in a back shelf, and her grandmother was way too short to even see. Like I had to be the one to get it and pull it out. And it was like El Toro or something. It had like a sombrero for a top that we had to unscrew.
Oh God.
It was terrible. We were shooting with orange juice. Just like all, what the hell was I doing shooting with orange juice? But yeah,
man. I went ahead and put a link there in the chat. So if you want to see the sour toe, it's right there, and it's a real thing.
Man, do I want to see it?
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
With a mummified human toe. I don't
want to look at my toes.
Like, man, in Philly, we've got the Mutter Museum. It's amazing. Yeah. That's my favorite museum of all time. It's got a wall of skulls and medical oddities throughout history, including the soap lady, who is like an actual full body that when it started decomposing, it turned into soap and it smells really weird. Yes. So check that out. And then there's the new body exhibit is back on tour. So I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that's at the Franklin Institute. I'm getting tickets to that.
That came through Cincinnati when it was first like blowing up in America. And I was like, I want to go see that, but like that was when I was working 3 jobs at once, and I was like, I don't have a time off. And they have one day that I'm working 1 job, so that's not going to happen for me. But if it comes back through Cincinnati, I would love to go because I'm just fascinated by that stuff. And like, I've mentioned it before, but I'm like Robert Downey Jr. of like, I just want to blow up whatever and like look at I want to understand how things work.
Yes.
And so seeing the exhibits of that body exhibit where it's like, yeah, here's what veins look like in your body. Like, I want to see that. I want to know. So
I had a tough time getting over that was just a dude at one point.
His name was Bill. Yeah.
I mean, it's not anymore. And he willfully donated it so we could see.
Yeah. But like I also worked in a biology lab when I was in college, and my first day they were like, hey, welcome to your new job. Go down in the anatomy lab and you're going to flip the cadavers because they need to be flipped and sprayed.
Or the blood pools. And
yeah. I was like, I need to do what? I'm sorry. What am I doing at 6 a.m. right now? They're like, yeah, come on, we'll show you. And like,
I haven't even had your morning coffee.
It'll wake you up.
Oh, it woke me up.
You are a psychopath.
It just for all the wrong reasons.
Fully healthy.
I had to be talked off the ledge. I was like, I'm quitting. I can't do this. I can't. Like the handkerchief thing that they put on the face to like protect anonymity fell off when I flipped the female cadaver. And I love that I'm like acting. I had to get under and like, and
actively having a little moment of PTSD.
I can smell.
I was going to say, can you smell the formaldehyde?
Oh, yeah. And like my coworker had to be like, wow, look at this lung, isn't it? And like lifting out the body parts as she's doing it. She's like, isn't this a nice looking lung? Let's take a look at the kidney. Oh, they were a drinker. Yeah, you can tell by this liver they drank. And I was like, right, just break it, compartmentalize, put it in a box and forget that this ever happened. That's somebody's grandmother. Like, what do you do? And I got over that real quick. And then
it's in the same cabinet as the horse from Neverending Story.
Oh,
yeah.
You're a bad person sometimes, Carl.
I just tell it like it is, man.
Fair enough.
We're just a bunch of apes on this big blue and green rock hurtling through space at ridiculous speeds and no control. So let's have fun.
Let's enjoy the ride, PJ. Yeah. And you're calling him a terrible human, but you're the one that's been friends with him since at some point in June of 2011. So what's about you?
June.
Oh, I'm a terrible person too. I admit it.
Okay, all right.
But it's the fact that we're constantly trying to improve ourselves. That's what makes us great people.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah, the process of improvement is never complete. Speaking of improving, how would people improve their long box collections? What a tie-in! If they wanted to purchase Undisputed, are you, as you're fulfilling the campaign, like, are you going to have that for sale somewhere? How do people find that?
Right now, the digital edition is available on my website, pjcurling.me. You can also get a 6-page preview on pjcurling.me if you sign up for my Substack mailing list. The book is also available on Global Comics and Drive-Thru Comics. You can do a print on demand on Drive-Thru. And if you're in New England, I will be at FanFest 10 on April 5th. I will be at the Haverhill Public Library Comic Book Convention in May, and then I will be at Plastic City Comic Con in, I believe, July, and then I'm going to try to set up some dates for the fall.
Nice. I'm just saying Cincinnati has 2 Comic Cons in the fall, so you come to Ohio.
You pay for trains.
Well, we don't have trains that come here, PJ. They're just now building a Greyhound station that gets from Oxford to Chicago. Like, we're well behind those times.
It's too long of a drive, my brother.
That's fair. No, that's fair. I get it. Are you wait, what's today? The 10th?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to IC3? You probably would have just mentioned it if you were. I just thought like New England, it's all the same. Because I looked at going to IC3 and that it's like a 14-hour drive. And I'm in the Midwest, so I'm like, oh, that's doable. Yeah, I would totally for that. Like an idiot.
Connecticut. No, that's a curated show, and I didn't have enough to show to get into the show.
Okay.
And also, Connecticut makes you have basically a vendor's license to sell $10, $5 or $10 comic books, and I'm not going to spend money to break even.
Yeah,
it's gotten rough out there.
Because there are a couple of shows like Super Mega Fest is in Connecticut. There are a couple down there, and I don't want to do the paperwork. It's bad enough that at some point next year I'm going to have to figure out the 1099 with Kickstarter, but
there might not even be an IRS then. What does it matter?
I will selfishly hope you're not wrong.
No, see, that's the thing though. Like we make less than $1 million a year, so we're still going to have to pay tax.
Oh, absolutely.
It's everybody else that doesn't.
It's either that or the re-education camps, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, Carl.
That's great. Carl, where can folks keep up with you and all of your indie wrestling managing shenanigans?
Yeah, it's you can find me on Instagram, Doc C Martin, or Dr. Carl Martin on the cesspool that is X. I also have Blue Sky, Doc Martin 87. So check me out there. I'm not as active on social media anymore. The day job takes up a lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
But every now and then I pop up at indie shows, and hey, if anybody wants to hire somebody for mental health or a webinar, or if you want me to come out to a show, I can teach like a mental health toolbox kind of webinar to folks. I work with wrestlers. I've done therapy with workers over the past couple of years. So if you happen to be listening to this and you're wondering if mental health or if you should ask for help, please reach out. Just ask some questions. Free, doesn't cost you anything. And if you need anything, I can point you in the right direction. So if you need anything, hit me up on those socials. And thank you so much for having me on today.
Absolutely. You're not done. I know it feels like I'm wrapping things up.
We're just plugging.
Yeah. We got to get the business end of things out of the way. And I should have done it in like an hour ago. But here we are,
We hooked them. Now they're in. They can't get away.
We got them hooked in. Yeah. 100%. So no, I do have two official things to do. The first is, were we posing, PJ, when you were on last time?
Yeah.
Am I doing that?
Yeah,
yet?
I think so.
Okay, so I like to take poses because it makes my life easier. And so I have a keyboard shortcut, and I will get this. Can I balance this here on my mic stand? God, that'd be awesome. I'll get a keyboard shortcut, and I'll count us down, and we'll pose, and that'll be the YouTube thumbnail. So let me all right, ready for that? So in 3, 2, 1. Cool. So there's that. The other thing, and you kind of already did it, man. You beat me to it, Doc. But I love doing this show so much, and I love talking to fucking cool people, because like I can have anybody on, and it doesn't matter what walk of life, what life experience, what stage of life, what age, what color, what gender. Like none of that stuff matters because we love comics, and with you two, we love pro wrestling. And like I knew this was going to be just a fun time, and I could easily just tell my wife like just eat dinner, go to bed. Like I'm just going to talk to them all night, and I could, and I know that we could do that and it would be fun. But I can't, I got to eat. I haven't eaten dinner. Or for that matter, I haven't eaten since like 11 o'clock this morning.
Self-care is very important.
It is. I'm just like, I'm listening to my body these days more, and like, not just eating at the times that I should be eating, but like waiting till I get hungry. And it turns out I only eat like 2 meals a day, and I'm totally good with that. It's weird.
Yeah.
I've started losing weight like without trying. Just like I'm just listening to my body. anyway, I love doing this show. I love having people on. And as part of that, and just to I'm not doing this for me, although it'd be great if I was getting paid to do this. So if anybody wants to be an angel donor, that'd be awesome. My PayPal at Crystal. That's how you find me. Shameless, gosh. But I love doing, even if I wasn't getting paid, which I'm not. And even if I was spending money to do this, which I am, I would I'm going to continue doing this because I love hearing from indie creators. And I think that everything is better on the indies, and that's pro wrestling, that's comics, that's shopping local on not just the day after Black Friday. You should be shopping local all the time, because there's enough billionaire corporations that are ruling everything. There are enough monopolies that are taking over everything. And that doesn't benefit any of us. That only benefits the top 2% of people, and screw them. And I'm a punk. And so that fits into the yeah. And that's in my core, but I love talking to people, and I love giving everybody that comes on my show a chance to just if there's anything that you want people to hear from you, it could be about why The Undertaker is the greatest character in pro wrestling ever. He's the best character, hands down. You can't defeat it. Or it could be about Undisputed or mental health or support indie wrestling, whatever. The content doesn't matter so much as I just want people to hear from you of what you want them to hear from you. I think that made sense. If it doesn't, I hope it fake it. So
free speech, man.
That's
free
right.
Speech.
PJ, because you've done this before, I'm going to go to you first, and then we'll come to Carl. And so PJ, the floor is yours. I'm going to stop rambling.
So Undisputed #1, it is the first in a 3-issue series, is available now from my website, pjcurling.me. There you go. That is one of the variant covers. We will be launching a Kickstarter campaign for issue 2 at some point this summer, so look for it on Kickstarter. I'm also on Substack, pjcurling.substack.com. Support indie wrestling, support indie comics. Take good care of yourself. Chris, you're a sweetheart. Carl, I love you, brother.
Sick. Appreciate it, dude. I'm not going to try and enhance any of that because I'm going to make it worse. Carl, go for it.
Much love, to PJ. It's always a blast. It was so weird thinking about how long we've been friends today and just how reliable he is. I am terrible at phones. I have been kind of just moving around my whole life, but he has been just so persistent and a good friend and reliable, and just happens to call at the right time. So if you have those people in your life, hold them close, and hopefully, you can protect them and make sure that those you love, those that are in the communities that are right now being vilified, right now being pushed down, hey, we don't have to take it. We are the people. And this country has existed a lot longer than any king will. So I don't want to get too far into it, but take care of yourselves, take care of those that need taking care of. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate the venue. Sweet.
Yeah, I appreciate you both coming on. This was definitely worth the hype that I put myself through all day of we get to talk wrestling and it's gonna be awesome. So anytime you guys want to talk wrestling, and it doesn't have to be on the show, it can just be hey, let's just talk wrestling. You know how to get a hold of me. So, and PJ, I know you don't social media and stuff, whatever. So I guess I'll just bother you in your Substack comments of why aren't you talking about wrestling? And I'll just start doing that all the time too.
You won't.
Wow, that is what I think they say now. I'm going to look up Tangled Web 4 from CZW as well. I wrote that down.
See if I'm there, because I'm not.
Yeah, I'm only looking for you with a full head of hair and maybe not as glorious of a beard. So,
much shorter, yeah.
Because this has been a blast. Hang tight after I end it. I've got some logistics for both of you, but if you've been watching this and if you have hung through all of this wrestling chat, you're probably one of our people. So why don't you just subscribe to the show and find me on social media at LongboxPunk. It is Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram only. That's where I'm at because those are the ones that are fun for me. So that's where I'm staying. And if you liked this, share it, do the YouTube comment thing, subscribe, hit the bell. Whatever. I don't do that shit because that's not who I am. Just thanks for hanging out and tuning in and listening and watching and all the things and all the stuff. And I'm going to end it a little bit differently this time because I feel like this needs to be the main thing. So what's a good podcast without a good tagline? This is mine. Go do what's good for you, Pun. Read some indie comics and support some indie wrestling. This is the main message as we leave. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
And end the stream. Why isn't it ending? End. I hope that's